On March 14, 2026, Italy coach Andrea Capobianco was asked how a defense could handle Caitlin Clark and Paige Buchers together. He answered in Italian. The player translating beside him began with the joke, "You have to be good trying to hypnotize them." The room laughed. Capobianco then described the assignment. Italy wanted to remove the ball from their hands. Once Clark passed, her defender had to remain aggressive and stop the return pass. Capobianco added that even this offered no guarantee. Clark and Buchers could score in too many ways. His answer lasted less than a minute, but it identified the part of Clark's game that tends to disappear when the discussion begins with shooting distance. A defender's work doesn't end when Clark gives up the ball. On some possessions, that first pass only changes the form of the problem. The difference is small in language and large on the court. A conventional scouting report can begin with the action a player completes. Capobianco described the defensive obligations Clark creates before a possession reaches its conclusion. Italy had just lost to the United States, 93-59, during the World Cup qualifying tournament in San Juan. Clark played 22 minutes. She scored 12 points on 4 made shots in 5 attempts, supplied 5 assists, and committed 5 turnovers. Her plus-minus was +27. Italy's pressure had produced disruption. 5 turnovers represented Clark's highest total across the 5-game tournament. The same pressure barely disturbed her shooting. Those two outcomes came from the same defensive plan. Italy could force the ball away from Clark, but doing so required another effort after she passed. If the defender relaxed, Clark could relocate and receive it again. Staying attached took that defender away from the usual help responsibilities against the other Americans. The offense didn't need to return the ball to Clark for her movement to matter. When Clark approaches shooting range several feet before the normal offensive action, her defender has to leave the usual defensive shell. Another player begins monitoring the drive or the high screen. The defenders behind them adjust toward the spaces that pressure has opened. Clark hasn't scored or passed at that point. No statistical event has occurred. The defense has still started changing its shape around her location. That was the version of Clark in Capobianco's answer. Her shot remained the source of the pressure, but the scouting problem was no longer limited to the shot. Italy had to control her access to the entire possession. Public discussion can remain focused on whether Clark made enough threes. An opposing coach has another calculation. He has to decide how much attention may lean toward her, how early that movement can begin, and what remains exposed when the ball travels faster than the defense can recover. This doesn't mean every European coach evaluates Clark through one shared philosophy. Europe contains different leagues, national programs, and coaching traditions. Capobianco's Italy and Miguel Mendez's Spain didn't use the same defensive answer in San Juan. Their language did reveal a similar form of accounting. Neither coach treated the possession as settled once Clark's first option disappeared. Spain faced the United States 3 days after Italy. Mendez used changing defenses to interrupt the Americans' rhythm and control the tempo. He was discussing the United States as a whole, not claiming that he had designed one personal coverage for Clark. American coach Nate Tibbetts later confirmed that Spain had played a substantial amount of zone. Clark again logged 22 minutes. Her scoring fell to 7 points. She made 2 of 7 shots and only 1 of 5 from 3. If the evaluation ended there, Spain had pushed her out of the game. Clark also recorded 7 assists against 2 turnovers. Spain lost 84-70, the closest result of the United States' 5 games in Puerto Rico. Its defense reduced Clark's shot efficiency, while another part of her creation remained intact. Zone defense changes the task for a point guard. Instead of beating one assigned defender, the offense has to move players stationed across areas of the floor. One pass forces a choice. The next can reach an opening before the zone completes its shift. Clark didn't need to finish each advantage herself. She had to recognize which defender had moved and place the ball where that movement created room. The word gravity often becomes too broad here. It can turn into a general compliment for any dangerous shooter. Coaches need a more precise account of what the defense is spending. They need to know where the first defender meets Clark and who protects the space behind that pressure. They track what happens to the roller, the paint, and the weak side shooter once the ball begins moving. After Clark passes, they still have to decide whether her defender can help or must deny the return. Every choice consumes part of the defense. A made shot has a clear price. The team concedes 2 or 3 points. Defensive attention is harder to record because its cost may appear somewhere else. A teammate finds a cleaner driving lane. A screener rolls against a rotating defender. The ball reaches an open player before the last closeout arrives. Clark won't receive an assist on every possession she alters. Sometimes her pass comes before the official assist. On other plays, she never touches the ball again. If one defender remains occupied with her 30 feet from the basket, the other 4 defenders have less help available across the remaining space. Capobianco's instruction accounted for that possibility. Italy wanted to deny Clark after she released the ball because a completed pass hadn't ended her involvement. There is a less flattering side to the same film. A defense can pressure Clark into turnovers, and Italy did. Extending her defender makes the route into the offense more physical. Changing coverages can reduce her shooting efficiency, as Spain demonstrated. Clark doesn't solve every scheme. Removing one part of her offense tends to expose another decision. Italy attacked her access to the ball. Clark turned it over 5 times, then made 4 of her 5 shots and finished with 5 assists. Spain attacked rhythm. Clark made 1 3, then created 7 baskets with passes. Neither game completely measures her influence because the United States carried a roster filled with elite players. Defensive attention devoted to Clark becomes more expensive when Chelsea Gray, Kelsey Plum, Kalia Copper, Bueckers, Angel Reese, and Aaliyah Boston are available to use the resulting space. Clark didn't produce the American offense alone, and those teammates weren't passive beneficiaries of her presence. The roster strength belongs in the scouting calculation. A coach can commit extra attention to a star when the next pass reaches an ordinary option. Against the United States, the next option may be another all-star. Capobianco knew that before the Italy game. He didn't present his plan as a hidden solution or claim that Clark had a fatal weakness. He described the work required to keep the ball away from her, then acknowledged that the work might fail. Mendez approached the problem from another direction. Spain changed the defensive picture instead of relying on one coverage. The purpose was to keep the United States from settling into its preferred pace. So the phrase "European coaches see Clark differently" needs a narrower meaning. Their comments didn't come from admiration at a distance. They had to prepare teams to survive possessions against her. Scouting language is built around consequences. Coaches aren't only asking what Clark can do, they're asking what their own players must stop doing normally because she is present. A guard usually begins exerting direct shooting pressure around the three-point line. Clark can start earlier, which changes where the first defender stands and lengthens the recovery after a screen. A normal denial may last until the offense moves to another option. Against Clark, Capobianco wanted it to continue after the pass because she could relocate into another shot or rebuild the advantage with a return catch. A zone can discourage a pull-up or a drive. Spain still had to process Clark's passing before its defenders finished exchanging responsibilities. The shot started each problem. It didn't define the full cost. Clark's 5 games in San Juan gave the coaches several versions of the same player. Against Senegal, she scored 17 points and distributed 12 assists in 19 minutes. Those 12 assists were the second highest single-game total recorded since this World Cup qualifying format began in 2022. Puerto Rico held her to 8 points and 2 assists. Italy generated the turnovers. New Zealand allowed 14 points and 6 assists. Spain reduced the shooting and received 7 assists in return. Across the tournament, Clark averaged 11.6 points and 6.4 assists in just over 21 minutes per game. She made 52.9% of her field goal attempts and 40% of her threes. Her 32 assists led the tournament. The International Basketball Federation named her the most valuable player in San Juan. That award is useful because Clark ranked 4th in tournament scoring. Her leading category was passing. The shooting hadn't become secondary. Its distance changed the defense, and her passing used the changes. Clark described her role after the 12-assist game against Senegal. She said she took pride in creating easy shots for everyone else and wanted to play fast while she was on the court. The tournament matched that account. She played 106 minutes and recorded 32 assists. European national team basketball placed those numbers inside a compressed scouting environment. The teams played 5 games between March 11th and March 17th. Coaches had limited time to prepare, recover, and install another answer before the next opponent arrived. Under those conditions, a defense needs rules that can survive several versions of the same possession. Italy's rule concerned access. Remove the ball, then prevent its return. Spain's rule concerned rhythm, using changing defenses to make the Americans process a new picture. Both rules governed the whole possession. Neither depended on hoping Clark missed a distant shot. It would be easy to turn this into a cultural divide, with American basketball supposedly obsessed with scoring while Europe understands movement and collective play. The press conferences don't support a claim that broad. Tibbetts spoke about ball movement, extra passes, lineup balance, and Spain's zone. American coaches recognize the same actions. The difference in San Juan came from perspective. The public could watch Clark. Capobianco and Mendez had to allocate defenders against her. That job changes the object being measured. A viewer can judge the result. A coach has to account for the chain of decisions that produced it. On one possession, Clark's pull-up may be the event. On another, her defender climbs above a screen, help moves toward the roller, and the pass reaches the weak side. The box score credits the player who makes the basket. The scouting report records why the defense moved. That is why Capobianco's answer continued beyond taking the ball away. If Clark's defender completed the first assignment and returned to a normal help position, Italy risked giving her another catch. Maintaining the denial protected against that catch but removed one defender from the team's support structure. There was no free version of the coverage. Spain found a different trade. Its changing defenses made Clark less comfortable as a scorer. They also presented gaps that could be reached with passing, and 7 of her passes directly produced baskets. The two coaches didn't reveal that Clark was unstoppable. They revealed the kind of loss a defense has to select. It can concede space near the ball or surrender help away from it. Extra bodies can defend her shot while the back line tries to cover the next pass. A team can change schemes and slow the pace, knowing that a patient playmaker may still find the exchanges. Better execution can reduce those costs. It can't erase them. That also explains why one poor shooting game may not satisfy the opposing staff. Spain held Clark to 7 points and 20% from 3. Mendez could still see 7 assists in the same box score and an American offense that reached 84 points. Italy forced 5 turnovers. Capobianco could still see Clark shoot 80% from the field, while the United States won by 34. The coaches were measuring more than whether the first defensive action worked. They were measuring what survived after it worked. Clark's range remains the most visible feature because it produces the easiest image to remember: a defender standing near the logo while the rest of the possession waits behind her. The European coaches in San Juan had to study what came after that image. Capobianco tried to keep the ball from returning. Mendez changed the defensive picture and controlled the tempo. Clark finished the tournament with 58 points, 32 assists, and the Most Valuable Player award.